Leading a startup team? Whether you're delivering a sugar rush, stocking coffee, or getting a regular delivery of snacks, Office Depot has solutions that fit every startup culture, from getting those first business cards and stationery to ordering fleece pullovers with your new logo. To learn how Office Depot and the California Technology Council have partnered to bring you savings on all of these startup essentials and more, go to californiatechnology.org/member benefits. I'm Daniel Levine, and this is the Bio Report. Pain takes both a personal toll on individuals who suffer from it and an economic toll on society more broadly. Though there's a wide range of drugs available to treat pain, it's a problem that is still not well addressed. The need for new pain therapies has become even more acute as the problem of opioid addiction has grown. We spoke to Kerrie Brady, founder and chief business officer of Centrexion Therapeutics, which is developing a pipeline of non-opioid pain drugs. Brady discussed the problem with today's existing therapies, how the company is using big data in its pursuit of new drugs, and its strategy for building out its pipeline. Kerrie, thanks for joining us.
Danny, it's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
We're going to talk about pain, your company Centrexion's efforts to develop non-opioid drugs to address the problem, and why it is such a big problem. Let's start with pain itself. How big a market is it today from an economic point of view? How big of a problem is it?
Well, it's certainly a large problem, and it's a growing problem as well. The size of the problem is such that, recently our federal government took the step to, institute a review both by the Institute of Medicine report and then followed that on with the National Pain Strategy. And the results of that inquiry really were quite stunning, even to folks like myself who've been working in the new pain drug area for some time. In the U.S., chronic pain affects over 100 million people. That's nearly 1 in 3 people. And I think all of us from our personal experience probably know somebody in our lives who suffers from, chronic pain, be it osteoarthritis or something like that. And this takes a big toll on our nation with regards to the economic impact. Or the estimates from these reports were, in the U.S. alone, there's around about $600 billion annual economic impact as a result of this problem. Not only the cost of treating it, but also the other on-flow costs from people not being able to, for example, work or for having to sell and move away from their homes, not being able to participate in their lives fully. So it's a very large and growing problem because a lot of chronic pain conditions are a result of things that, as a population, we're aging, and so more people are getting osteoarthritis. We've also got the ability to treat cancer, and we have made great progress there, but chronic cancer pain is a big problem, and some of the agents that we're able to use to halt the cancer can actually produce chronic pain.
How about in terms of the personal toll? What are the consequences of chronic pain for a patient in terms of function?
Well, there's some very important problems that patients suffering from chronic pain suffer. So in addition to the things that I just mentioned, for example, having to give up work because they can no longer stand or move properly, having to move away from their home, losing the ability to be mobile, having to get other services. They can't go shopping, for example. And on the medical side, chronic pain actually has other impacts on patients. For example, not being able to move and to exercise because you're in chronic pain leads to a deterioration in muscle tone. and also gives rise to other problems such as cardiovascular and metabolic problems as well. Very interestingly, some of the recent research in MRI scanning, for example, shows that there are very definitive changes, in fact, in the brain as a result of patients being in chronic pain.
There's a broad arsenal of drugs that exist today to treat pain, from non-steroidal anti-inflammatories to opioids. What's the problem with pain drugs as they exist today?
Well, for starters, there's not a broad arsenal, unfortunately. There's a relatively narrow range of product types available to treat pain. You mentioned nonsteroidals and anti-inflammatories. They're the two main workhorses. We have, in addition to that, some of the, we call them adjuvant therapies, so products such as duloxetine and pregabalin, which have provided some important advances, particularly for types of neuropathic pain, but there's not a lot of those around. And then they come to opioids. Beyond that, there's not a lot. And although these drugs have been important and helpful improvements, there are still a large group of patients for whom these drugs are not able to provide sufficient pain control. Also, there's a lot of safety concerns about a number of these products. Opioids obviously is getting a lot of publicity at the moment. One of the things about opioids is they were never really truly designed, if you like, to be used in chronic pain. They're excellent for short-term pain control. But when we get into longer-term use, then we start to have problems of not only patients becoming adapted to it and having to get higher doses to control their pain, but also addiction, unfortunately, gastrointestinal problems, and then the other societal problems that we see with, abuse and diversion and a number of other problems. So, in fact, there's a large and growing need for better treatments to this product. And to be honest, there's not a great big pipeline of new products being developed.
Centrexion is developing a pipeline of pain medications. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration recently awarded fast track designation to your lead candidate, CNTX 4975, which is an experimental treatment for Morton's neuroma. What is Morton's neuroma? How common is it? And how is it treated today?
Sure. So Morton's neuroma is a form of nerve damage caused by compression of the nerve that supplies the toes in the foot. So the nerve that does that has to travel through the bones in the metatarsal joints there. So what happens when there's ongoing compression of that nerve and an insult to that nerve, for example, wearing narrow high-heeled shoes, or a lot of athletes, for example, long-distance runners, you can imagine there's a lot of pressure pounding down on the forefoot area. This causes damage to that nerve, and that nerve swells, forms a neuroma, and starts sending out these pain signals whenever the patient tries to take a step. So how common is it? In these particular groups of patients, it can be relatively common. In the group of patients that we are looking to help with our new treatment, we estimate there's around about 150,000 of them. So it's orphan disease, but it's a relatively sort of larger size orphan disease. And these are the patients who have not responded to the current treatment. And those current treatments, well, firstly, the obvious things to try are changing your footwear or putting orthotics in, but that often is not sufficient. And so the patient will then start taking perhaps non-steroidals and anti-inflammatories. If they don't work, their podiatrist or physician may give them a steroid shot. You don't want to use a steroid, particularly in an area like this, too often, so it can only be used at the most maybe twice a year. So about 50% of these patients, in fact, who don't respond to the current standard of medical care choose to go on to have a surgery called a neurectomy. And in that surgery, the whole nerve is cut out.
Wow.
And that has a number of problems with it. Surgery, of course, which you would always like to avoid if you can. But because the nerve is cut out, the area that was previously supplied by the nerve now becomes numb. And you can create another neuroma by cutting the nerve. And so the pain can return. This is not an ideal treatment. And so this is one of the reasons that the FDA gave fast-track status for this new approach, a non-surgical approach, and a non-opioid approach to treating this problem.
So the drug you're developing is a derivative of a compound found in chili peppers. How does your drug work? What's understood about the mechanism of action?
So the active agent in our product is transcapsaicin, which in nature, in chili peppers, is the ingredient that gives us that spicy burning approach. What we've done is we've developed a synthetic, ultra-pure version of this transcapsaicin for injection. So the mechanism of how transcapsaicin works is very well known. There's been a lot of work studying this mechanism of action, and it's a very different way of using a drug. So the way that it works is when capsaicin meets the TRPV1 receptor, which is selectively expressed only on pain fibers, it has the channel open up. A lot of calcium flows into that, just the end of only the pain fiber, and it causes it to become inactivated for a long period of time. So it can't transmit pain signals anymore. After we've seen up to about 6 months, it recovers. It'll start transmitting the pain signals again, and we then give another dose. Another way of looking at it, we like to describe it as molecular neurosurgery. And this is particularly important because our Chief Scientific Officer, Dr. Jim Campbell, is a neurosurgeon, and he is the person who did the original research at looking how we could use this transcapsaicin to selectively take out just the pain fiber.
And the drug is actually cleared from the body within 24 hours, but the effects last for months. Is that correct?
That's correct.
How is that so?
So if you think about it, we have the drug go in, it interacts with the TRPV1 receptor, it causes this inactivation of the pain fiber, which is a physical effect of just the peripheral end of the pain fiber, and then it's cleared from the body. But the effect on the pain fiber lasts for months, and it takes that period of time for the pain fiber to recover, to regenerate, and then start sending pain signals again.
And where are you in the clinic with this? What do we know about its safety and efficacy to date?
So one thing that we as a company are very focused on in the products that we're developing is the safety profile of them, because if we don't have a safe drug, no matter how effective it is, it's not going to be of use to the patient. So 4975 has shown itself to be a very safe drug. If you think about it, it's in and out of the body in 24 hours. We inject it only into a particular pain site, and it has a very selective mechanism of action. And we know from the work that we've done to date, it's now been in over 1,000 patients, that it has a very, very strong safety profile. We've seen no serious adverse events attributed to the drug, and it's very well tolerated. In fact, after we give an injection of this for the treatment of Morton's neuroma, in fact, and a number of the other indications we're exploring, the plasma levels that you get after it diffuses out of the area, for example, in the foot or in the knee, they're no higher than what you would have systemically after a really spicy Thai meal. And we know that people have had capsaicin in the diet for thousands of years, and it is not been a problem.
Another product you have in development is a topical gel formulation of lidocaine. What do you see as the potential for this drug's what markets would you serve?
Sure. So our product, the CNTX 2022, is a high potency topical gel. So we have 40%, 40% of lidocaine. And through clever formulation, we were able to get that not only high concentration that was soluble, but also stable. The really amazing thing about this is when we've tested this in a clinic, we found that the product actually forms a depot in the skin and gives us a sustained release through the skin of the lidocaine, so it can take care of dampening down the pain signals from the local pain fibers. So what this means is, unlike the existing products, for example, having to use a patch to get lidocaine into the skin, because lidocaine can be hard to get into the skin, we now have a gel that can be applied to a variety of body surfaces. So curved surfaces, surfaces where a patch may have difficulty adhering, and it opens it up to the opportunity to be used in, for example, more superficial musculoskeletal pain and types of neuropathic pain. For example, painful diabetic neuropathy is most often expressed in the toes and the feet, so we could spread the gel around there to deal with the pain, and also in forms of dermatological pain and itch as well. So there's a fairly broad area that this product could potentially address.
And are there IP issues around this, or are you able to protect it with patents?
It's very well protected because it is a very novel formulation and way of using this product. We have a portfolio of issued patents both in the US and around the world.
One of the things you're doing is bringing a sort of precision medicine approach to treating pain by harnessing big data to identify patients most likely to benefit from a given product. How has this shaped the clinical development of your drugs?
So using big data is one of the cornerstones of our approach to developing new pain drugs. And the reason that we're very excited about using big data is we can mine the vast body of literature that's out there across a whole wide variety of disciplines to get the latest and best information on our particular target that we're addressing with our new product. And this allows us to be more fully informed about choosing an indication to go for. You know, there are many different types of pain, and if we can be smarter and more informed about how we take a particular product forward, we can give it the best chance of having a success and not being premature terminated because we chose the wrong indication.
Earlier this year, you acquired 3 other experimental analgesics from Boehringer Ingelheim. These all have different mechanisms of action and are either in the clinic or ready for filing to enter the clinic. Was this just opportunistic, or did it reflect some broader vision of your pipeline?
No, we have a very clear strategy for building our pipeline and for building our company. And so we set out to search for additions to our pipeline that met some very strict criteria. And a couple of the criteria were there had to be products that were not opioid and not addictive or have potential for abuse. They also had to be products that acted at novel, new and emerging targets in the pain area so that we weren't doing Me Too development there. And they had to have data existing to show that they were not only active in models of pain, but showed a very differentiated profile to what was available there.
I should mention Saul Barrer, the former chairman and CEO of Celgene, is your chairman, and Jeff Kindler, the former CEO of Pfizer, is your CEO. Not your typical lineup for a development stage biopharmaceutical. How has having high visibility, well-known leadership affected the company's ability to raise money, make deals, or attract talent?
Oh, it's been extremely helpful. I think more importantly, though, it's not just having the names in the lineup, but the fact that both Saul and Jeff have a very active role in the strategy of the company, and Jeff in particular in running a company. So this is a really big benefit for a company like ours, which is early in the stages of development. And we have a vision of building a pain powerhouse. Sol had expressed that I want to build the cell gene of pain here. And so, we're tackling a very big and growing problem that's being highlighted now, for example, with the opioid epidemic. And as we talked about at the start of our conversation, this chronic pain problem affects over 100 million people. We don't have the treatment to really deal with this well at the moment, and we need to be able to, take an aggressive step in taking on this problem. So with the guidance and leadership from Sol and Jeff, we feel that we're in a very good position to be successful.
Kerrie Brady, founder and chief business officer of Centrexion Therapeutics. Kerrie, thanks so much for your time today.
Danny, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. The Bio Report is a production of the Levine Media Group. To automatically download this podcast each week, subscribe to our RSS feed or through iTunes or other podcast manager. To join our mailing list, go to levinemediagroup.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to drop us a line or are interested in sponsoring this podcast, send an email to danny@levinemediagroup.com. Special thanks to Jonah Levine, who composed our theme music, and the Jonah Levine Collective, which performs it.